Clara and you are on the Ink Path, and today we are going to talk about all the books I've received as a birthday present. So, in case you don't know me, I'm the owner of this channel where I talk about books as a reader and as a writer, and I love reading, so that's why I decided to do a bilingual channel where I talk about books in English and in Spanish. Probably you are in my English video because you are fluent in English or you speak English as your first language. English is not my first language, but I try to do my best. So I created this channel where you can actually check which playlist do you want to see in which language. So the only playlist you cannot watch like duplicated are the unboxing space videos and the interviews with authors, which only has one video at the moment. But today we are going to talk about the books that I received or bought for myself during my birthday month, which was August. Now, for those who actually have their birthdays in August, you will probably know that because the rest of the people are on holidays, it's very probable that your birthday celebrations, parties, and reunions and meetings last until Christmas, more or less. So I've been receiving or buying books with that excuse for the last 2 months, 3 months. So here we go. We are going to talk about the books that I bought or I received during my birthday month. Ready? Go. Oh, and before I forget, if you are new and you like this content, I encourage you to click subscribe down there, and also the little bell that is actually activating the notification that YouTube must send you in order to know when I'm posting a new video. Also, I will leave all the platforms, all the social platforms in which I have profiles down there, as well as my Amazon wishlist, so you can check what kind of books I'm looking for, just in case. All of that will be linked in the info box down below. Ready? Now, so we are going to talk about the books that I bought for myself. During the summer, I had the opportunity to be traveling a little bit. I went to the UK, and for those who don't know, the UK has kind of a really important company a company called Waterstones that is actually one of the biggest bookshop chains that I know, and I bought a few books there, starting with the short story collection by Jane Campbell titled The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night. Probably the majority of you that actually check Booktubers from time to time know who Jane Campbell is, but for those who don't know her, she is a writer and a booktuber and formerly as well a bookseller. She really loves stories and she is really aware of disability representation in books and other media, and she also loves poetry and storytelling and different kind of storytelling and fairy tales and all that whimsical aspect of language. So to me, I follow her videos for 3 years, 4 years now, and I adore her her way of talking about books. And I know that she wrote books for children as well, but I haven't picked up any of her books until this short story collection came out. And I have to say that I read it and I really like it, and I will do a review very soon. But for those who don't know, The Beginning of the World in the Middle of the Night is a collection of stories that is some kind of intertwined with one another about identity, about representation, about love. It's kind of very imaginative and lovely and lyrical sometimes, and I really like it, and I hope I can actually do a review very soon, talking a little bit about my experience with this short story. But it's what else? Later, I also got. Let's leave this here. I also got out on a whim. I was talking with a bookseller, and he recommended me Sunburn by Laura Liebman. At the moment, I'm very into thrillers, when actually it is not a genre that I actually go for when I read. I'm normally more of a kind of fantasy reader, epic fantasy reader, or YA kind of but more fantasy than anything else. However, this summer I was very into thriller, and the bookseller that I was talking to, he told me that this was the book that they were like in the shop, in the Waterstone I was. They were reading it and they were really, really enjoying it. And I haven't had the chance to pick it up, but from what he told me, it was about a one-stand affair between a boy, or a man and a woman, and they decided to continue on with the relationship, but at some point you have this kind of secrets popping up or appearing, where the woman in the story, and the man as well, they are not as clear, as honest that they seem at the beginning of the story. And I don't know, I really like chatting with the bookseller about it, so I thought it was very, very possible to give it a go, that maybe it could be right up my alley. In a very similar vein, but in a very different topic, I pick up this one, which is The Disappearances by Emily Vian Murphy. And this book is The Disappearances, as I said. This is a story about two siblings that during the Second World War, I believe, her mother dies, and they are sent to her mother's home village, as a way of protection, because they cannot stay in London where they live due to the bombing and the attacks. So they go to this tiny village where her mother got a really kind of weird, quirky, nasty reputation, because according to the villagers, her mother was the responsible for some kind of weird disappearances. I'm not talking about people vanishing. I'm talking about the disappearances of scents and colors and reflections in mirrors and other surfaces. So this kind of beautiful cover and kind of enchanting plot caught my eye, because another reader, or maybe a bookseller, I'm not sure at this point, saw me picking it up without even looking at the back, and she said, "Oh my gosh, you're going to love that. You have to take it with you." And I was like, "Okay, tell me a little bit more about it." And she started speaking this beautiful story about the little village, that some kind of weird, whimsical things start to happen when all this kind of tiny detail disappears. This kind of tiny elements that nobody notices until it's very relevant that they are gone. And I thought, whoa, that's really a good premise, and I love it. I fell in love with it. I remember that in the shop, I started the first 3 chapters, I believe, and I really enjoyed the storytelling, the way the story was told. So I picked it up and I bought it. So yeah, happy birthday to me. Lastly, I'm going to leave this here and we're going to move the books. So you see the last one I bought for myself before going into the books that I was actually receiving. We're going to leave someone there, and also Jane Campbell's short story. It's going to be left here. The last one is a chunky one that oops. Yeah, this is, oops, I'm fine, the book is fine, and I'm fine. This one is, this chunky book that almost attacked me, is The Queens of Innislear by Tessa Grayton. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. Sorry, English is not my first language, so I'm probably butchering some names here. This is a retelling of King Lear by William Shakespeare. Probably saying the surname wrong, I always do. So, for those who don't know, I love William Shakespeare works. I love the plays and I love kind of the poems, everything about it. I love how he managed to make us believe in his stories in a very passionate way that we still worship and study his works now. So, I am not an academic. I didn't study English literature. I'm just a fan of the part, to say. But I haven't read The Queen. Well, I haven't read this one yet, and I haven't read The King Lear either. However, I plan on reading it because this is, as far as I know, a feminist retelling of King Lear based on, or center on Lear's daughters, the three daughters, for who the kingdom is divided, and that actually that's the act that sets the kingdom on fire. And I don't know how Tessa Grayton arrived to my Twitter account, but I remember that reading about this premise, about we know what happened to King Lear, or we know more or less the premise of the play, but we never got to experience it through the daughters, through the secondary characters that actually got the responsibility of dealing with a kind of king in the downfall, the king in the elderly age, sorry. So I've decided that it was a really nice opportunity to pick this up, and some people commented that it was like almost if a Shakespearean play got the Game of Thrones twist, but I'm not quite sure about that comparison yet. I prefer to go blindly to this and enjoy it for myself. So the next one I'm going to show you is this, is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, which is the first book written by this author, and it's published by Titan Books. It's an adult thriller that I was really into, and I really wanted to buy and enjoy, basically because following my Shakespearean kind of love and my Shakespearean kind of obsession, and this is an adult thriller about a group of drama students, a group of theater and performing studies, that at the beginning of the story they face the fact that one of their classmates, is found dead. Now, the connection to the Shakespearean plays is basically because in this kind of elite university, elite academia, or conservatory, better said, they all the drama students only study Shakespearean works. So at the beginning of the story, we go back 10 years ago, where this incident took place, and what happened as an accident is going to be quite a darker plot, because the killer is one of the people in the class, is one of the actors. Then, going back to one of my favorite topics of the whole world, which is the Harry Potter world, my mom found this beauty over here that is not based on the books per se, but it's based on the movies, it's based on the films. This is Diagonally, the Harry Potter a movie scrapbook. This is an interactive scrapbook where you can visit Diagonally with your own money and check which kind of shops do you want to visit, and actually take info about it. So in this part over here, I'm going to try to move so you see it clearly. We are in Gringotts Bank at the moment, and you have your envelope with that you can actually open. If I can, you can actually open and take the money out. You have this kind of coins here. I remember the names, but I don't remember them in Spanish, which is not the original name. So throughout the whole little book, you have this kind of references to the movies, and not in all, but in some parts you are able to see, for example here, you are able to see The Prophet, the newspaper, and to expand and to read a front page of the newspaper edition. So it's a little bit of a play and that kind of book. And I love it. I really love it. I think it's going to be one of my December kind of Christmassy books, as well as this beautiful Spanish edition of the don't worry, it's not going to be damaged. I will check the title in English and I will show it to you now. This is Harry Potter, A Journey Through a History of Magic, which is the book of the exhibition that was held, I think, last November in the British Library, when Harry Potter, the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, was actually the 20th anniversary of the first edition. And they did this kind of beautiful British, very British exhibition where J.K. Rowling shared part of the manuscripts that she had of the research and the documentation part of the writing of Harry Potter, as well as the connection, or explain the connection to the real magic, the real studies of magic back in, I don't know, medieval times. So here you have all the information about all sorts of background that she had to do in order to create the magic that we consider now to be kind of canon, to be real in the Harry Potter world. This is a little bit of a background story about how she managed to create it. And this is a present from Christina, who is my oldest and dearest friend, and she knows me very well. So when she and her boyfriend saw this, she knows me since we were like 3 years old. So when she saw this, it was like, this is Clara's. This is basically Clara's. And yeah, again, as the previous one, I would read this over the Christmas period because I feel like it's more kind of like sweet and reminiscent of my childhood. So I think it's the perfect time. Jumping into, let's see if I am not breaking this. Jumping into the comic form, we are going to the Sherlock Holmes Society, Volume 2, which is written or created by 3 people: Sylvain Cordury, Alexandro Nespolino, and Ronan Tuhout. This is retelling, I guess, of some of the Sherlock Holmes stories, but in this version, at least at the beginning of the first volume, Sherlock, a very, very Victorian kind of Sherlock, not modern Sherlock such as Benedict Cumberbatch in the BBC version, very Victorian, very proper to the times. Very mature Sherlock is actually sent to a village where weird things are starting to happen because the dead are rising, and Sherlock and Watson are taken to this place and they have to start the research. They start to do kind of an investigation about how can actually the dead be awakened and moving again. So this leads them to different parts of London with different kind of characters that I'm not going to mention to avoid the spoilers, but this is the continuation from we last saw them. I will probably have to reread the first volume because I remember the big things, but I don't remember the whole plot of the first volume, so before taking this one I will do a reread and then continue onwards. But I'm really into it. Everything related to Sherlock Holmes, I'm very into it. I actually have 2 versions of Sherlock Holmes short stories. One in Spanish, a very old one, and then in English I have the complete works that I hope I can actually read as well in November. But let's see how it goes. Lastly, I have to mention one Spanish author who is Victoria Alvarez. I'm not going to pick her book because it's right there and I don't reach it. So you will see probably the cover around the screen. But she writes normally kind of stories written or set in different time periods. She's a professor at the university and she's really good at documenting and creating this kind of historical atmosphere in her stories. One of the most iconic trilogies is called The Dreaming Spires, which is the story about a group of friends who are actually kind of journalists. They have a magazine of the occult called exactly The Dreaming Spires, and this novel, or at least the first one, set in the, I think it's 19th century or the beginning of the 20th, where the occult and all of that is very relevant and very kind of chic back then. So at the beginning of the trilogy we are presented with this group of journalists and they have to solve a case in Dublin. So this follows the events that happen in the first book, as well as having a different case, and mix them with old friends and new enemies of the universe of the Dreaming Spires. So I'm really glad to have the sequel because the friend who actually gave it to me as a present actually already read this one, and she knows that I'm going to love it because I always love the prose of Victoria Alvarez. But she knows that my favorite character is going to suffer. Therefore, she knows that I'm going to suffer a lot. So I hope there's a lot of fangirling, but my little baby is in the end safe. Lastly, and this is going to be tricky because I don't know how to say it to you without losing a limb or something. Oops. This is the complete works by William Shakespeare. Again, let's go with the part. This was a complete surprise. One of my cousins, who is kind of really into Shakespearean plays as well, knows my love for the part, and he saw this beautiful Barnes & Noble edition, which is very heavy, but that has the complete works, the comedies and the dramas, as well as the poems or the historical plays, or even the ancient plays, the ones that are set in Rome and Egypt. At the moment I'm enjoying Julius Caesar from this chunky edition that I'm going to leave on the table because it's basically very heavy. I'm reading Julius Caesar as well as If We Were Villains because that's a play that is actually connected to If We Were Villains plot. And I haven't read it before, and it's quite interesting to see the play as well as the reflection of the play in a thriller novel. So that's basically the dual kind of reading that I'm doing at the moment. Other than that, that was my last gift, which is now one of the most beautiful books, or if not the most beautiful book that I own in my ever-growing collection, ever-growing personal library. I was thinking that maybe you would love to see this book in particular, the complete works of William Shakespeare, more in detail with the camera doing close-ups and stuff. Would you be interested in that? Have you read any of the books that I mentioned? If you have done, could you tell me what you thought of them? Is there any Shakespearean work that you feel more connected to? Or is there any book of the pile that I mentioned that I've shown to you that you will love me to read first because you want to have heard a review first of them? I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I always love reading what you wrote, and I will answer you as soon as I can. Bye. See you next week, okay? Bye.